These are the top factors to consider when selling your HVAC company. You need to think about when to get leadership involved. I'm really excited when, that's their number one concern.
Welcome to Cracking the Code, where we make HVAC success clear, simple, and stress-free. I'm your host and Contractor University General Manager, David Holt. This episode is the latest of a 16-part series that introduces you to the awesome speakers you'll see at Epic 2026. If you don't want to miss next week's episode, please subscribe and turn on your notifications. And here's a quick reminder, your voice really matters. So please visit mycontractoruniversity.com to participate in our annual contractor survey for HVAC business leaders. You may even win a prize package that includes a 2-night stay at the Bellagio and an all-access pass to Epic 2026. In today's episode, we're honored to speak with Austin Radke, head of mergers and acquisitions at the Seer Group. Austin has evaluated hundreds of opportunities in the home services industry and is presenting a breakout session during our Epic 2026 conference entitled Maximizing Company Value, What Buyers and Investors Really Care About. In his session, Austin will walk you through the entire sales process from start to finish, including how to prepare your business and team before speaking with buyers, what matters most in the lead up to a formal offer, and how to manage the due diligence process effectively. So let's get cracking. Welcome to Cracking the Code, Austin.
Appreciate it, David. Happy to be here. I'm more excited to be in Vegas in a few months, but nonetheless, excited to be chatting today.
Man, Vegas is much more exciting than being on this thing with me, I promise you. So, Austin, you've reviewed hundreds of opportunities from a buyer's perspective. What are the top 2 or 3 factors that really help companies stand out from the rest of the pack?
Yeah, I love thinking about this, and it's what I'm looking for every day in my role. So I would say the number one thing for a lot of us buyers, and specifically important to me when I'm jumping on a first conversation or second conversation, is getting to learn how the owner talks about their team and the type of culture of their business. I'm really excited when, that's their number one concern. How is this going to impact my team? How can, I make sure this is the best transition for them? I know that we've got a good one on our hands. I believe that the best owners out there and the best businesses are run in taking care of their team and their people first. Obviously, customer-centric approach beyond that. But if you take care of your people, they're going to take care of the customer. So easily number one for me. I would say number 2 would be a level of intentionality, and I'll kind of leave number 3 into this, and a level of humility. When I'm talking to an owner and they've really thought about how they want to grow intentionally, and even saying, you know what, I've tried these things and some of them have worked out great and other things haven't worked out. This is someone I think we're all going to get excited to talk to. I can sit here and I can tell you it's about metrics and it's about revenue. There's a lot of businesses out there that have look like shiny objects from the outside. They hit all the numbers and they've got, the maintenance agreements or whatever, the shiny marketing. But I'm looking for someone that, back to number 1, cares about their team. Number 2 is grown in an intentional manner, maybe made some mistakes along the way and knows that, but is excited about either continuing on or passing on the torch to, a buyer and their team in the future. So for me, call that in between 2 to 3, but those are definitely things I'm looking for.
That's amazing. So back in 98, 99, my dad went through this process with a second generation company. I was the president, but he was the owner. And so when he was contacted by a couple of different folks that were back during, I guess we'll call it consolidation 2.0, because 1.0 happened a few years before 98. But in 2.0, the whole process was just, it's just kind of amazing. You think about, and that was certainly a concern for my dad is, how's this going to impact my customers? How's this going to impact my people, right? What are we going to do here? So that kind of leads me to my next question. So many contractors, they really worry about when and how to involve their team in this type of a process and in the selling of their company. So from your perspective, what's the right way to prepare both emotionally and organizationally before speaking with a potential buyer?
Yeah, that's another one that's close to my heart, because I think that we all want this to be successful, and doing this the right way really lends to a happy transition and transaction for everyone involved. So honestly, this is something I could spend the entire session talking about when we do it in person. There's so much nuance here, but to keep it at a high level, each different company and culture can address it a bit differently. And I've seen a best practice span a number of methods and thought processes. I've seen it both where the owner decides to, maybe they've got an ownership group, they've got a partner themselves, and they're very well, they've already decided, and they're just going to keep it close to the vest, and they're going to slowly transition as we get closer to the closing day. And I think that's the most standard process, right? You've got, one owner, two owners that want to wait. But the best thing is when we all know it's a go, is to start to loop in that senior leadership team, those people you can trust, and make them a part of the process a little bit sooner. I would say even slightly better than that, which is fine because each group is different. But this one I've seen go really well, is to have the key 3 or 5 top leaders be involved even earlier than that. And maybe loop them into the thought process years ahead of time and saying, hey, at some point we're going to have this conversation. Look what is going on in the space. I'd love to involve you in that. When the time's right, I may or may not. And just so they're a little bit mentally prepared, we all have the horror stories. But it's good to have their involvement because they can get excited about the future and the opportunities for themselves and for the rest of the team. And then the nice added benefit to that is really to help in the process. It's a lot of work to sell your business. And I've seen owners try to do it all on their own. And that's tough. And we're here to help it and do what we can. But at the end of the day, there's, when you filed to form the company up in 2001, I don't have access to that document, but we're going to need to see it. So someone that can help in that process, I think that I've seen that. And honestly, buyers like us, we do this. I know my partners in the industry do as well. We've got best practice guides on letters that our partners should use and how they communicated it, and emails and meeting agendas to communicate to the team. So we'll help in that process and figure out what's right for them and their team in each individual way.
So you don't think a good idea would be to get everybody a copy of Built to Sell and hand it out to them as a Christmas gift?
No. Honestly, some teams I've seen it. Maybe some teams they're on along for the ride, but no, probably not for most of them. David, it's a good question.
So the whole, you talked about the difficulty, and I do remember, going through the due diligence process back in the 90s with my dad's business. That really can feel a bit overwhelming for owners. So I love the idea of getting engaged with your team, especially senior level team members that can help you kind of carry that load a little bit. What are the most common pitfalls that you see that can derail a deal, right? And how can a contractor avoid that?
Yeah, that you covered off number one. I mean, it's a lot of work. I never sugarcoat it with an owner, and there's been a lot of colorful language used to describe the process that I will get into. But you could ask your buddies; they know they'll share it with you. So one is having help, and that's the members on your team that you trust to be in that conversation. There's going to be not only organizational questions, but obviously there's a financial component. So having the accounting team, the controller, however you structure who's helping you with that, your CPA involved, and that's on the internal team side. They need to be there and helping you, and that's the best way to get it done, to manage the different work streams, because it's not lost on us. At the end of the day, you still have a business to run, right? But this is now a second job that you've taken on. The other thing outside of that, as far as support is concerned, is to having a good advisor team, and that a lot of the time results to having a really great, hear me specifically on this, transaction, M&A specific attorney. we love your attorney that you've worked with for 20, 30 years. They've done awesome stuff for your business and they've helped you get to this point to have a successful transaction. But it's not a part of their day job to facilitate a transaction with a buyer. And so they're going to be more expensive and it's going to be a new relationship. But in the end, it will save you time and frustration if you're discussing a myriad of legal points that are also not fun to talk about. To have the right advice there and find someone you trust and it will do a good job, and that will make the process a lot smoother. The third thing I'll say is there's a lot of anxiety around the financial component. Everyone's worried about the price and being, quote unquote, retraded at the end, where the buyer comes back and says, yeah, I know we agreed to a number here, but that number is now different. I think it is two pieces of advice. It's on the buyer side and the seller side. It's finding a good buyer in a relationship you trust, and that could be with, an advisor, a team that's going to bring you, the right buyers that will treat you with respect in that process. And I think we're in a space in industry, and I've got a lot of colleagues that sit in my seat that I say do it the right way. So that's probably number one. The second thing is be realistic about your financial situation and understand that we don't expect you to be Fortune 500 accounting, to have all of this support. And there's going to be issues and on your P&L and your balance sheet. And it's our job to go in and try to help clean that up as a part of this process. And because of that, the numbers you're looking at might change as a part of the process, and just be prepared for that. A lot of buyers will have a conversation and walk through that. And that's why it goes back to the first thing, is having a good team that can advise you and explain why these changes are there. But just know that, I think if you can find a team that you feel really good about, you trust, this is the right thing, the future of maybe yourself, your team, and the company, you're gonna be all right. At the end of the day, this is the people business. And if you have that feeling, you'll be able to work through all those other things.
So true. And so when you talk about cleaning up the financials, you mean you're going to do something about my cabin up in the mountains and my condo on the beach and my big fishing boat? I mean, what are you talking about, Austin?
You're going to open that can of worms for me here. Yeah, hey, that's right. We love them. I'm glad you got them, but we don't want to keep them. So those aren't for. The sooner you can get those off the books, the better heading into a transaction, let me tell you.
Yeah. And when you talk about clean, I mean, that's really what you're talking about. Let's have business transactions only, get the personal transactions off of these books, put them on your own books. But yeah, there's so many, and I've worked with contractors as a coach for years, and I see stuff sometimes when I'm looking at their balance sheets and I'm like, dude, you don't run service calls in Florida. You're up here in Georgia. What's that? What's this payment over here? Oh, that's my condo. Oh, I use it for business though. Yeah, right. Okay.
But the one thing I'll say is I get asked this all the time. I'm not the IRS, so I don't care. But it will be a lot easier, to your point, is if you're thinking, hey, if maybe in a year or two I want to entertain this, just go get it cleaned up and get it organized in the right way. The ease of that and the value that it'll create for you as a part of your transaction is worth any, supposed, if it does exist, doesn't exist tax advantage that you might be taking advantage of as well. So.
All right. And that's something that, we had to learn in my dad's transaction back in the day as well. It's like, that's nice, but let's get this stuff cleaned up a little bit. So some of the stuff you just mentioned made me think of one more question. I mean, you said you really ought to get a specialist involved from a legal standpoint. So getting a lawyer that's got, M&A type experience, they've been there, done that, got that T-shirt. What about, there's a handful of pretty good business brokers out there that kind of can assist a seller. What's your thoughts on working with those guys?
Yeah, I think it's with all things, I think there's pros and cons. I see a lot more pros. I was at breakfast today, actually, with some brokers that were in town visiting. And I think they've got relationships. They specialize in this. I think a good advisor can really ease the transition because once again, this is what I do for a day job. You don't. As an owner, you don't sell your business every day. And so I've got, we all have a bunch of relationships. We all sort of know each other. At the end of the day, it's not that big of a space. We all know that. We, joke that the trades are like high school, the rumor mill. So we know who's out there. But a really good advisor on the buyer's team can help not only, everyone's always thinking about value and price. So they're going to help me get the highest price. I think also, sure, maybe that could be the case, but they're also going to weed out maybe some buyers that aren't a cultural fit for your business because they know who is and who isn't. And then, back to our point on that due diligence period, they're experts in organization and knowing what questions we're going to ask anyway. So they're going to help you in that process at the end of the day. I mentioned cons, I think where we've been around for a long time, and I say, the Seer Group, meaning the brand that we have partnered with, and, our co-founder's 35 years in HVAC. So he's had a lot of relationships where buyers have called us and said, hey, I'm going to talk to you guys and 2 others because I know you and I feel good about it and I want to run my own process. Now, organizationally, it may be difficult and it might be more stressful for that owner. And all of us buyers have stories that we've worked with the buyer directly, which is fine. But the pro for them is they're saving the cost of an advisor, right? I mean, that's the difference. I think for some sellers, it's, I don't want to have to pay someone else. I can manage this process. All power to you. We're happy to do it, discuss it. We do that all the time as well. So I think it's just what each person needs and kind of the support level. But once again, not, cookie cutter answer there.
Yeah. And that's fair. And it's just kind of like buying a house. You can either, go around and drive neighborhoods yourself and go find available houses that have signs in front of them, or you can talk to a realtor who knows which houses are for sale that don't have a sign in front of them, right? It's like having someone who's a professional that does the work, like you say, it's their day job, that does that work regularly is a lot better than the do-it-yourselfer in a lot of cases. So I love there's a billboard floating around in our part of the country right now. It's a plumber. It's got a thing. It says, when DIY becomes OMG, right? it's like, oh my gosh, I did it myself and I got a 2 multiplier. Oh boy.
Well, the example you just used, that was exactly what I was thinking. I mean, in the trades, you want someone to use your service because you're an expert. It's the same exact, thing. Flip that coin around. And Dave, I can't tell you how many times I've had relationships with buyers and, they said, I'm going to run it on my own. I'm not going to get any help. And all of a sudden you've had the last 3 years of noise and they're like, I've gotten called and email and I don't know who's who. They throw up their hand to get some help. And that's probably for the best because it's a lot and there's a lot going on.
Austin, thanks for joining us today and sharing your insights. I know your epic 2026 breakout session will be a big draw.
Looking forward to it. And can't wait to see everyone in person. Appreciate it.
For more information about Austin's breakout session, visit the epic2026.com website and check out the agenda for Thursday at 1 p.m. If you haven't already registered for the conference, make sure you do so quickly. It looks like another sellout is on the horizon. Click register now at epic2026.com so you don't miss out. Also, please do us a favor. Like and share this episode so we can help more HVAC contractors improve their business. Thanks for watching Cracking the Code, where we make HVAC success clear, simple, and stress-free. See you next time.